Uh, I gotta be careful with this one. So Turning Red, I recognize the voice of one of the characters, but the rest of them I'm just not familiar with. A story about Mei Mei, or Mei Ling, a 13-year-old girl who is going through the change. In this case, changing into a giant red panda, which is apparently a family gift slash curse that's passed down through the ages, and her dealing with that and coming to terms with kind of who she is growing into versus who her mother wants her to be, who her family wants her to be, and the dynamics with that. And as with Pixar, this is a good movie. Definitely got some really touching scenes with it. It's got the goofiness though. It's a very it's a very it's a very solid Pixar film. It's not one of my favorites. I can already tell you right now. I finished watching it a little bit ago, and I'm already having trouble remembering some things about it. However, it's still a very, and I'm just real quick here, and there we go. That's a little bit better. It's still a very well put together movie. It's got a great message to it. And look, let's let's call it what it is here. It's kudos to Disney and Pixar for talking about a woman's change. As a non-woman, I got to be careful how I talk about such subjects, obviously. But for them tackling it in a fun, creative way. And let's also not mince words. In the movie, that is the first thing her mother thinks is going on, and they don't shy away from it. It's like, okay, I got hot water tea, the ibuprofen, and pads, lots of pads. I'm like, well, wow, they're just going straight into it without actually saying it. And obviously, the panda is kind of a metaphor for that as well. The red panda, which red pandas are adorable, by the way. But I mean, first off, it's a very colorful film. It's a very vibrant film. Lots of color all over the place. The character is also very likable. Like especially like Maylin's group of friends. Like they're just a really nice group of friends. You get like the standard one. It's kind of like edgy. It also takes place in 2002, which is interesting. But not modern day. But it's you get kind of like the standard, somewhat grungy, but otherwise normal, and you get the kind of just like deadpan, whatever, whoa, one. You get the wildly outrageous one, and then you get her who's like the textbook not prissy, but perfect one. Because of the standards she has to live up to her mother. All the characters are actually quite entertaining to a degree. But you quickly start to get a dislike for the mom, but there is a reason and they quickly establish too that there's a reason for the way the mom acts the way she acts. And it's Tiger Mom basically. And there's some scenes that are straight out like hard to kind of watch a little bit. Oh my god, there's a trailer for it right now. I wonder, and it's dealing with the scene I'm actually talking about a little bit. Yep. Oh man, I'm not going to go too much into it, but there's a scene where the mom finds something of the daughter's, and she makes such an embarrassing scene about, like, she doesn't try to ask her daughter what's going on. She just makes an assumption, goes with it, and really just, oh god, it's kind of difficult to watch. Oh man, it was so uncomfortable to watch, and to watch the character go through that. And her mom is kind of like that throughout the movie, but it's very reminiscent of Encanto, where Abuela, there's a reason for why Abuela acted the way she did. I mean, it doesn't excuse the behavior, but it at least makes you understand the behavior. And here is very much the same thing, except I think they did a good job of letting you know that, unlike Abuela, who did not come off like she loved Mirabel, when we know she did, she was just so scarred by her history. Whereas that one would sometimes make you think she just did not like Mirabel. Here, you know the mom for a fact loves her daughter, but the way she's going about it is wrong. It's just wrong. Okay, maybe that might be because I know there are households that act like that. And you know what? I'm gonna say it right now. The way you're raising your kid that way, no, that's not a good way to raise your kid. Sorry. Um, and they quickly establish why she acts that way. And so it leads us to, later on in the film where we get this. I use the Encanto comparison with Abuela because this is kind of like Encanto, where there's no villain, there's not even a central antagonist really, but there is a family issue that needs dealing with, and it does involve the panda, but there's a twist on the panda. So it is something that needs to be dealt with, and it's in a fashion. And I do, and it leads to a climax that I'll admit I did not see coming. Um, like when they bring up a plot point of the family, I'm like, is that? It did. There was a passing thought. I'm like, are they going to bring that up? But the story kept going on. I'm like, okay, it's not going to happen. And then it happens. I'm like, oh well, this is something we're getting. I never thought I'd see this type of film done with red pandas. So that was interesting. I'll give them credit too. They make things that don't seem like they're going to be like important plot, like important to the characters, but not overall going to add a major thing. Not major thing. Not going to not going to add like no major bearing on the plot, and they're actually able to bring it back. They have this music group, which is basically their Backstreet Boys NSYNC Four Town. That I'm not going to actually say how they actually do play a legitimate factor at the end of the movie, but they do in fact do that. Yeah, and really it's about girl growing up and her, her mother and her kind of growing apart, but also growing closer and bonding through that and kind of sharing those experiences with each other. Granted, there are some logic problems with this world because as we see, Mei Ling as the panda does actually interact with the public, and she does it more often and people are just like, giant panda. And obviously mysticism does exist in this world, but it's like, wait, there's no way in hell, like, even though it's Toronto, Canada, it's like, there's no way in hell that like people would just see a giant talking panda on the street and not call like animal control or the cops or anything like that. So yeah, there's some, and people are just like, panda, yeah, like, yeesh. So I'm like, there's some logic issues. There's a little bit of logic issues there. Yeah, it's yeah. It's not anything that ruins the film. I will also say this: the film does start quick. Like honestly, I don't know if there would have been a short film attached to this because it is Pixar and they usually do that. But there was no short film attached to this, and I think that's because it was on Disney Plus, and I missed that because a Pixar film starting like that just really felt jarring, honestly. But they established really quick. She's quirky. She's got a lot going for her, but she's also klutzy because she's only 13. So, yeah, nothing that really ruins the film. It's a nice film. It's a nice film. I like the film. I did enjoy myself. Is it amazing? No, it's not amazing. This is not one of Pixar's top shelf, top 10 films out there. Because they've done a lot of films out, but it's definitely in the upper lower half, certainly. But anyway, I digress. That's my thoughts on Turning Red. I enjoyed it very much. Have you watched it yet? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you for the next one. Have a good one.